Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to another episode of the Liberalish podcast. I'm your host, Keith. We have the original crew back. We got the lovely, the beautiful Carly. She's back in the virtual building. Shout out to Carly.
Guys.
And then we got the other two guys here. Shout out to Ryan. Shout out to Marcus. Marcus actually got promoted in What You Expect. So give a special shout out to him. He's a new CEO of What You Expect Enterprise.
Period.
So
thank you.
I can no longer talk shit about this guy. Or else I lose my job. So,
right.
That is true.
Marcus is the greatest CEO ever. The last guy was terrible. He sucked. So I'm glad that we have Marcus at the helm here. Special shout out to that. Special shout out to Dan the fan for coming on the pod. Special shout out to him. He's our Middle East and African correspondent now. So
Dan the man.
Dan the man. Shout out to you, bro. All right, so there's a lot to talk about. We're gonna dive into headlines. Headlines is kind of broken up into 4 sections. One's about upcoming elections. The other is like trigger warning. Next is international news. They're gonna sprinkle in some congressional news here for you, and there's some good news to top it all off. And then if we got time, we're just gonna ask the podcast a couple of questions, just to see how they feel, what they think about what's going on in the current state of political affairs. All right, so let's get to it. All right, so I call this section "Throw Your Hat In." So Val Demings, my congresswoman. Shout out to Val. Shout out to her husband, who's the mayor of Orange County, Florida. She's throwing her hat in the ring to go up against Ricky Rubio in the Florida Senate. So fingers crossed there. Mark Klosky. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but who cares? He is going to launch a campaign for U.S. Senate in Missouri. If you're wondering who is that guy, you may have remembered that husband and wife during the Black Lives Matter protests in Missouri that pointed their guns at the protesters as they're walking by. He is that guy. He is running for U.S. Senate because that's all you need to be qualified to run for U.S. Senate nowadays.
Yeah.
You're literally just picking anybody. Like if you're
if you don't have anything to do, just run for Senate.
I think John Oliver had the perfect segment on him. So John Oliver, if you watch the ad, he try to do this. I'm a regular everyday guy. I'm putting the bale of grass on the truck, and so John Oliver was like, "Yo, of course." And then when you look at his house, lives in like a mansion. Like if you think about what average rich white people live, that's his house.
Yeah,
that's the inside of his house.
He lived in the same neighborhood as I think the mayor, right? Mayor of St. Louis, I want to say. So
it was like a gated community or like one of those private communities.
Which I mean, there's questions as to why the mayor of St. Louis was there, but neither here or there. All right, so the other state over, let's talk about Arkansas, home of Walmart. So shout out to Arkansas. Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is making a plan to run for governor. Her daddy was the former governor of Arkansas as well. She's a former press secretary for President Trump. So things are looking up for her. She's looking to be like the favorite. Political.
I would like to correct you. She was
what's going on?
Press secretary. She was a chief propaganda officer, bro. CPO.
CPO. Okay. Chief propaganda officer. We'll go with that. I think Mike Spicer or Spicy. I thought he had that original title, but
he was the first guy. She was his deputy.
He was the first person, and they kicked him out the administration, man. North Korea style.
Then he got a job at Harvard.
To Serbia.
Well, I mean, it's funny how you mentioned North Korea. I thought like Mike Spicy will be like the eternal, chief propaganda officer, since he's left the office. All right, Rudy Giuliani has a son. I didn't know this. And his son, Andrew, I really didn't know he had kids. I knew he had a daughter.
It's a horrifying thought that he could have kids, to be fair.
Yeah.
It is a horrifying. Didn't he date his cousin? Wasn't there like a thing that he
was
dating his cousin?
Oh my God.
Someone fact check me on this one, please.
Okay.
All right. So Rudy Giuliani, his son, Andrew, announced that he's going to run against Andrew Cuomo. So it's going to be a battle of the Andrews. Both two nasty men, for.
Oh my
for
gosh, yeah. Well, I
governor.
started type did Rudy Giuliani, and the first thing that pops up, did Rudy Giuliani died.
Fuck that.
Yo, who's running this Google algorithm?
It's you. It's based off of you.
Oh wait.
Oh yes, he married his second
Yes, he
cousin.
married her second cousin.
All in the family, man.
Yeah, all the family, bro.
Wow. That's sick.
We need to yell of the soundboard, man. We could have played that theme song or something.
Did you hear about the other guy that's running for the mayor of New York now?
Wait, who's the other guy?
Have you ever seen that show? It's a show called For Life. It's like the 50 Cent show. It comes on ABC, I think, but it's based on a real guy. Like he went to prison and then he in prison. I don't want to butcher his name, so I'm gonna Google it. While he was in prison, like he taught himself the law. He became a lawyer.
I know who you're talking about.
And now he's running for
he
mayor.
became like the prison paralegal.
Yeah.
No, I know what you're talking about. I think I watched like bits of that show too.
It's not a bad show, but it wasn't a good show. It was
if it's on, you'll watch it, but like it's not something you're actively looking for.
It's like I'll watch it, but it's not like, oh my God, I have to remember to tune in when it comes on. Like it's like if I can, like if I catch them the episodes on Hulu, I'll watch them. But it's like I just feel like the acting could be better.
That's fair. I always kind of felt like that storyline was probably better for like a movie or like a limited series.
Yeah, like it's not supposed to be dragged out. Like
right.
But at a certain point, this is all a lot of shows lose me. I'm sorry to be going on a tangent. Is when they turn these little short things that's supposed to be like one-offs and then just drag the shit out of it. How to Get Away with Murder did the same thing. Freaking Billions doing the same thing. Like Who Killed Sarah is doing the same thing. Like it's just dragged out. I'm not trying to see the same thing over and over, basically.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Billions was good for the first 2, maybe 3 seasons.
Yeah, then it became like, yo, I don't want to see these two niggas fight each other no more.
Right.
I don't want to. I can't stand it. And this is why I didn't
sorry for the billionaire. I was feeling sorry for the billionaire. He was like, "Why are you coming after me? There's actual people that kill people out there. Go after them." And I was like,
that point is like an obsession, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It got too personal. I think at the end.
Took his girl. So, but anyways, go watch Billions. It's a great show. It's on HBO. Please go watch it.
It's on Showtime.
Shit. Fuck.
You think it was Succession? I think.
Bro, you're getting your expensive streaming channels mixed up, bro.
Excuse me, sir. I use other people's logins. Allegedly.
Period.
Allegedly.
You know what I've been trying to watch that show Harlem something.
Godfather of Harlem.
Godfather of Harlem. Yeah, season.
Yeah.
I can't pay for that Epics though.
Honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. Like, if it's a streaming service where I'm only trying to watch one thing, I'm not paying for it. I refuse. Like,
I pay for all
because it's like, no offense.
Same.
No, I'm saying I just won't get it. Like, I just won't even sign up because, like, for example, like I have Stars, I have HBO Max, and I have, I think, Showtime because of The Chi. Even The Chi, like I have to subscribe to Showtime. Actually, never mind. I get it through cable. But Epics, I've never heard of anything that was on Epics.
That is good.
No, you should honestly watch Godfather of Harlem. It's a really good show. And it's actually based off a true story or true-ish story, I should say.
Yeah, it's Bumpy Johnson, right? Following Bumpy Johnson's rise. And
and it has some politics in there too. I think the first Black congressman to hold a chairman seat, he's in that movie, that show as well. So it's a really good show. And Malcolm X is in it. It's really good. All right. Off of that tangent now. All right. So we're gonna talk about some triggering stuff. Man. We should rename it to tangent or something like that.
Or random things about life.
We should, but then we'll be competition with Oath. All right. All right. So the next segment is going to be kind of triggering. So just brace yourselves. So U.S. intelligence report discovered that employees at a lab in Wuhan became ill and had to be hospitalized. This is fueling questions around the origin of the disease. Republicans have found their newest victim. So President Biden has proposed increasing the budget for the IRS so that they can go ahead and go after like more people, more rich people. That's the main idea. Republicans are kind of like taking this and saying that this is a way for Biden to raise taxes, increase dues.
Why would you want your donors to be affected, huh?
Well, yes,
that's what, I've always been fascinated how the IRS got demonized, and the IRS actually don't go after little people in most of the circumstances. They're so underfunded that they can't actually do their job to go after rich people, because every time they would go up against them, they would have expensive lawyers to challenge them in court, and IRS can't hire good people because, like, you know, with what budget? But with what budget I'm gonna challenge Jeff Bezos to pay his taxes?
You know what actually kind of like pisses me off though about it is if you're just a regular dude that goes to work, have a W-2, come home, you do absolutely nothing exciting on the side.
Yeah.
The IRS can actually just do your taxes for you, like rather easily. Even if you have an investment account, they can still do your taxes rather easily.
But how would TurboTax make money off the government? That's the thing. TurboTax. Right. What's the other one? It's TurboTax and the other one. They have
H&R Block.
They have very powerful lobbyist group. So they give you that tax software for free. But if you wanted to be more details, because if they give you that tax software for free, they meet the government regulations that it's supposed to be like a software being available to public use. It's supposed to be on the open market. You're supposed to just can't use it, but then they embedded the stuff in there. If you want your taxes to be done properly, that's when you have to pay that fee, you know?
No, but that's why I'm going with Derek Hammer's tax consulting firm. I think it's Hammer Consultants. So special shout out to him. Get your taxes through him. This is not a paid ad. Shout out to Derek.
Yo, shout out to my tax lady, man. Shout out to my tax lady, man. She be holding it down. I still ain't get my state tax yet though, but we're gonna see. We're gonna get it right.
We're gonna see. All right, moving right along the list here. The New York Times reported that kids are crossing the border illegally, are being held in poor conditions, way below the standards set by the Biden administration. This one is particularly triggering. This is about the case that's been going on in North Carolina. The North Carolina DA, Andrew Womble, stated that deputies would not be charged in the deadly shooting of Andrew Brown. He stated that Brown used his vehicle as a deadly weapon.
Didn't they say they wasn't going to release the footage?
They released like
a few weeks ago.
Seconds.
Yeah, a few weeks ago they weren't going to show the entire video, just like a snippet of it. But I think the family was also trying to apply pressure as well and trying to get the full video out because they don't agree with the.
And can that be filed on the Freedom of Information Act?
Ryan, I don't know, because in my mind, yes, that should be freedom of information, but it's just not working that way. Like even if Andrew Brown did try to like kill the cops of his car, right? Just throwing it out there. Even if he did try to do that, just the lack of transparency from the cops to the DA to the judge so questionable.
It's like 9 times out of 10 when there's a lack of transparency, like it's something going on. So that's probably why, because I feel like if it, like you said, you know, even if he did, why not just put it out so that people could see that? And then it would just be
exonerate you guys.
It would just be like, oh, well, he did try to run y'all over or try to use his car. Okay, I understand. But I just feel like with the climate of like police brutality and just in the past, anytime there's a lack of transparency, there's usually some sort of cover up happening or something that they don't want us to know that probably doesn't make them look good in the situation.
Right.
So that's my guess. But that's, you know, usually what happens. I feel like Because in my thing is like with body cams, like this whole thing when body cams first became a requirement or whatever, I thought that would be a win-win situation. Like
100%.
finally you would be able to show what you've been saying, like, oh, these people try to kill us and we fear for our lives. That would show. And then you wouldn't have to deal with it. But it's like anytime a situation happens and then there's a question surrounding the body cam footage, I'm like, if what you're saying really happened, and if you put the video out, wouldn't we all see what you're saying, and then it would just kind of go away?
That's facts.
Yeah.
They don't think like that. Plus, if there's a malfeasance, they don't want the public to know.
Right.
You know.
But it's like what? Yeah, and in my opinion, you know, anytime you don't just come out with something, it leaves room for people to make their own assumptions or conclusions on what happened. And I feel like if you feel the narrative is turning into all cops are bad or look what cops do and and you're sick of the narrative and you are the exception to that narrative, I don't know why you wouldn't want to dissolve yourself of any wrongdoing.
Because people are dumb.
So this is
that's a short answer.
Or are they trying to hide the evidence that there was wrongdoing?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Simplest explanation usually does it. They're trying to cover themselves. Is probably the likely case here.
So this is a little bit off like a tangent here, but what the George Floyd case kind of pointed out was that there could be some corruption at the coroner's office. Remember how the coroner came on in the stand? It was like, oh yeah, because George Floyd died from like the exhaust pipe. Yep. That was it, right? But I think New York Times or Washington Post came out with an article talking about how coroners are using sickle cell disease as a way to get cover for cops. So basically, if a cop killed like Ryan or I or Marcus, they could just be like, oh yeah, but he had sickle cell.
And it's common in black people.
And it's common in black people. And he died.
I do have the sickle cell trait too. That's the crazy part.
Right.
So that's been a new cop out now that coroners been using to get like cops.
That's why, honestly, and I say that I feel like I say this every podcast. I feel like that's why conversation surrounding like police reform is like fucking pointless, because the whole point, because body cams were a part of police reform. It was a part of the whole. It was introduced as a way to kind of so the public, like the public would be privy to what was going on in these traffic stops or these arrests or whatever. And I just feel like cops don't want to be told what to do, and they don't want to be told how to be cops because
they're too powerful.
Yeah, because they feel like we put our life on the line. How dare you tell us how to protect ourselves and how to do our jobs? And so the idea of even being held accountable, even if you're wrong, it doesn't correlate with them because they don't feel like in most situations they are wrong, because they feel like it's always justified because they did what they had to do. It's a tough job. It's a life-threatening job. Every day we, go out there, we put our lives on the line. So it's really kind of getting more and more evident, even though I've already said this and I've, proclaimed this, but there's no fixing it. It really has to be stripped away and started anew, because any type of reform, they find a way around it. They work around it because they don't want to be reformed. They don't want to change.
Yeah, we're actually going to talk about that some more later in the podcast. So it's about like, can we get police reform passed, or is the movement for police reform kind of dead? But we'll talk for it.
I don't think you can reform the police. And again, I'm going to say this. I was talking to my friend the other day, like he's in politics, getting his MPA too. And I basically said to them, I think like 5%, probably like even 1% of cops are just horrible human beings. And 99% of people are just trying to do their job. But they're doing their job within the parameters that they're allowed, that they were trained to do. They're doing everything by the book, not by the proverbial book.
That's what I'm saying.
By the book, like the book that somebody you come in, you taught them, somebody tells you, yeah, this is how we do it over here. Like,
and in their mind, they're not wrong because that's how they were taught to do it. In their mind, it's okay.
Yep. And that's something you can't reform, because to reform something, you have to understand that something is broken. That needs to be fixed.
Yeah. And I I also say like it's impossible because even when like other cops see injustices happening or they see another cop doing something they're not supposed to be doing, most of them are not gonna say anything.
Well, even if they do,
Dude,
they get
remember the
fired.
lady?
Yeah, exactly. Because
They
it's
get
like,
fired.
and they're like, let's give good cops the benefit of the doubt and say you signed up for a job, you wanted to serve and protect, you want to take care of your family, you need benefits, whatever. I think in a part of the problem is you can't fix anything if people who see it don't do anything about it. And it's kind of hard to do anything about it when you know that as soon as you open your mouth, you're going to lose everything that you've worked hard for. And I think that that's a moral dilemma for a lot of people because you have to choose between your livelihood in some cases because this is a job. This is how you take care of yourself. And also, I see something wrong happening. So do I choose the right thing to do or do I choose the best thing for me, which is to keep my mouth shut and keep my job?
Before I say this, I want to preface this by saying I am super pro union, but one of the biggest problems with police is the strength of the union. Again, I came on here like mad times and I've said this. I realized that unions were the problem when the union president for the Sergeant Benevolent Society for New York NYPD came on and threatened the mayor of the city.
Yeah.
And his daughter. And he kept his job.
Dude.
And I remember there was a lady, I think in Buffalo, Charlemagne was talking about her. She saw the white cop putting somebody in a chokehold, and she pulled him off him because she was killing the person.
Mm-hmm.
She was the one disciplined, got fired, lost the pension. I think she was in like a 20-year battle to get back her
Yeah,
benefits.
we talked about that. We talked about that a few pods ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's things like that, like, yo.
And imagine being like kind of holding firm in your story that something did happen, and it's like you're basically having to prove that you're not lying. And I think that that's very frustrating, especially when it's like you're outnumbered and most people are not on your side. And I guess for me, the sad part about it is just being a good person and doing the right thing often doesn't always give you the best results. So I understand a person feeling a little uncomfortable having to choose, but we're not talking about like little things. You know, we're talking about situations where people's lives have been, lost and people are, traumatized by things and you kind of just don't do anything. I think it's a part, like you kind of owe it. If you really want to protect and serve, and if you really signed up for the job to help, I think a big help would be trying to fix a problem that maybe you yourself can't fix because you're one person, but at least I think it's like kind of like a little bit of the bystander effect, like, oh, no one's going to say anything because someone else will do it.
You're right.
It's a little similar to that in the sense that, like, well, okay, maybe if I speak up, other people will speak up. But then what happens when you speak up and people you think should speak up too say, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, it's kind of like your word against theirs.
So what kind of lives like rent free in my head is, I don't know if you guys remember this, but way back in the day, an NYPD officer recorded a meeting with his sergeant, and the sergeant was telling like the rest of the cops, you need to hit your quota, go after Black or Hispanic people to do that. That forever lives rent free in my head because that's what Black people and Hispanic people have been saying for years, decades. Here is the proof that the largest police department in the United States.
But it falls on deaf ears when we say it.
It's so obvious though. Like it's so obvious. Like you would think the way everything is. You would think that the way everything is, it's like, oh my gosh, this is common sense. But you really got to think about it, right? New York City. If you look at New York City, bro, it's like 70% white people live in New York City. Think about it, and all the crimes and everything is blamed on one or two groups, bro.
Yep.
Yeah.
Statistically speaking, though, white people commit more crimes than Black people.
But
that's not
we
talked
just
about
get
though.
police more.
Yeah, no, we do. It's really unfair.
And honestly, and even the things that we do get policed on, white people do it at the like equal or greater like rates, but we are like it's harsher for us. So it's
we're
not
surveilled much more than they are.
A lot more. Got the robot dogs out.
Police,
a lot more
police
attention,
is
a lot more
done
police activity.
every year,
Yep.
But it's and I think a larger part of for me, the reason why I say police reform is not possible is because I just think it's kind of hard. Like I feel like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like it's like how many times do we hear about sensitivity training and sensitivity trainings and racial trainings are not the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Because people know racism is alive and well. It's not like people don't know that racism is a thing. It's just that people are racist and they're not going to stop being racist because...
Carly, this is a great segue to the next point, but finish your thought.
Yeah, a group of people are not going to stop being racist because the people that they're being racist towards don't like it. That's the point. They don't want you to like it.
So the reason why I said Carly brought up a great segue, I don't know if you guys are watching the news. This is only a political podcast. But there was like 4-year-old lady who was testifying in Congress. She's a Tulsa Race Riot survivor.
Oh.
She was 7 years old when it happened. So she was old enough to remember this. You know what I mean? Not like she was old enough to remember this. She was testifying in Congress, still fighting for justice. I mean, like you're proud to see her and she survived and she's telling her story. But in the other
it's also
side,
sad.
It's sad. And like no one outside of what was it, Watchmen, no one really knew the Tulsa City riots happened. You know, Watchmen kind of brought a lot of attention to that. So if you don't know about the Tulsa City riots, please go look it up. It's very sad. I would say probably one of the greatest domestic terrorism acts in this nation.
I believe LeBron James's Spring Hill Entertainment is making a movie about it.
Yeah. I think
I don't know when it's supposed to come out, but they did mention it. I think they bought the rights to the story maybe last year, and they're producing a movie about it. Where it'll air, I don't know, but I think that'll help people. If you haven't watched The Watchmen, I think that does a very good job of kind of dramatizing it for a lot of people that may not have known about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, the entire town, including the National Guard, pretty much declared war on the black section.
All because they were doing good. That's it.
Yeah.
All because they're doing good. Yep.
Because they had wealth and the other areas, the white areas, were jealous of it.
Yep. And there's really hardly anything. There's no plaques or anything like that really to commemorate what happened there. It's just kind of forgotten. Like the city just completely are trying to erase it.
Moved on now from it.
So really sad stuff. And that's kind of like moving on to another thing here, critical race theory. This has kind of been like the new whooping board for Republicans. Republicans in Texas are trying to reframe the state's history. They're trying to play down the references to slavery and anti-Mexican discrimination. And UNC revoked the tenure status of the author of the 1619 Project over backlash from our board of trustees. Yes.
That's fucking trash.
That is nuts.
What the hell's going on in North Carolina?
This was gonna happen, bro. Yeah, I know this. America. So it's like one of those things, like when they say a dying bear is at its most dangerous, is that white people know that they're losing the grip on power, absolute power that they currently have. So these are the last dying embers of a group that has abused this power, basically.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly what it feels like, but it's just so sad that we're in 2021 and we're still talking about the exact same thing. It's really exhausting and it's really sad.
It's really insane. I can give you that, my.
Insane.
I wanted to skip by this, but let me just mention it really quickly. Biden promised to wipe out the debt of black farmers. Really good thing. Support Biden for that. However,
oh my gosh, yep, you saw the story. White farmers screaming discrimination because they've been getting all of that support for so long, and now they trying to address the systemic problems within the farming community.
Well, the white farmers are getting help. Banks are actually saying that this is unfair because if the administration wipes out the debt of black farmers, they lose money on interest payments. So they have been fighting against it. And I see here the American Bankers Association, which is a part of it, took down its diversity and inclusion page after the New York Times called it out. So,
Yeah, they're one of the driving forces behind this this effort to get this this action, this $4 billion pledge to kind of undo the debt. They're one of the driving forces to kind of undo it, acting on behalf of the banking industry. But I mean, it's absolutely, you think about like how much progress we've been trying to make and kind of drawing the attention to these things with critical race theory, and then we have a perfect example of it playing out now, where you have the forces that who have benefited for so long from systemic racism and kind of being able to exploit people because of their situation in life, and then any attempt to kind of redress it, it's coming up against the wrong people. Now, like to make the argument that you can't do this because it's going to affect what we make from interest payments is absolutely nuts. I think that's like that's what you're projecting, like, oh, we can't do this because it's going to fuck up the money that we make from this fucked up thing anyway.
Right. And those same banks also denied loans to those black farmers in the past. So, yeah,
yes. It's America is an insane place to live at, to be black in. I mean, the world is insane to be black in, because
that's the truth. Yeah,
you can't
the
really
world as a
escape
whole.
it.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. Yeah.
If you live in a black country, your country gets exploited. If you live in a majority white country, you're not accepted. It's like hard to imagine. Like, you can look at a country like the DRC, right? If you look at it, the DRC is supposed to be one of the richest nation in the world. Like, you can't have a laptop, phone, or anything without the mines that are in DRC, and yet it's one of the poorest countries in the world. Like, everything technology wise, they are the number one producer of. Like, like even like my own country, like Jamaica, you can look at it. Like, Jamaica has the largest alumina or bauxite reserves that makes aluminum in the world, bro. Like, and it's still one of the poorest countries, like, in the world. Like, it makes no sense. Like, it's so resource rich, but it's so hard to be black anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you got to kind of question it, like, is this by design? And which it is,
It is.
So
it's an insane proposition to be black.
It is. All right, let's talk about angry white people for a second. Meaning Congress. So Congress was supposed to create a January 6th commission. And this is shocking. I was really shocked by this, right? That the Republican Party, which pretty much kind of like was the party that was behind the Jan 6 riots, or they low-key supported it, either way, they're against forming a commission, which is really shocking. Let's see here. Republicans are against it because of cancel culture.
It's the rioters. They don't. They think that because of where it's being held.
They were
in
not
DC,
rioting, bro. They were not rioting. Stop spreading that news. They were peaceful protesters, according to my senator, Ron Johnson.
Oh yeah, just running up on the House, on Congress, with flags and shit.
Overthrowing the country is peaceful, bro.
Had weapons stored, and ready to go. Militias ready to go in case once the orders came in. From who? I don't know, but
I thought it was Antifa.
Antifa was planted there, apparently. If you listen to
we have to
Tucker Carlson.
We have to change the messaging. It wasn't the Antifa people, they weren't taking as much responsibility as we expected them to. What happened to my, oh my god, this light is so bright. Yeah, I don't know how, sidebar, I don't know how y'all do this like ring light stuff. The brightness in my face right now is unbearable.
I gotta get that. I
just picked up one and I had to like turn the brightness down because it was messing with my eyes earlier.
Jesus.
It's a struggle.
Used to him.
All right.
Carly,
life of a podcaster.
Yeah.
All right. So there's going to be no commission. Surprise, surprise. Joe Manchin's absolutely shocked that Republicans don't want to do it.
Of course. Fucking idiot.
Manchin probably don't want to do it.
He low-key doesn't want to do it either.
Just want to hurt his friend's feelings over there on the other side.
Y'all ever read The Spook Who Sat by the Door?
No, man.
No.
You
basically, this black person infiltrated the CIA and then go teach the community everything. Joe Manchin is the opposite of the spook who sat by the door, bro. He's really an undercover Republican, bro.
We know,
bro, he is a hard right Republican, bro. And only Jesus could come and tell me he's not a hard right winger who snuck into the party, bro.
Yeah, but he snuck in. He has.
Well, he's a
like,
Democrat
Maybe
just
that's-
because of like Robert Byrd, right? And Robert Byrd was one of the biggest racists in the
Mhm.
Congress. He just kind of inherited that legacy, but he just didn't switch parties. That's all that happened.
Yeah. Robert Byrd was a big time racist.
Big
Time racist. All right.
And that's why, and that's the reason. Actually, that's the reason he used to why he's against the voting against the getting rid of the filibuster. You know that, right?
You're right. Yeah, he said
Robert Byrd's legacy, but Robert Byrd's legacy to protect the filibuster, but to not get rid of the filibuster was to vote against the Voting Rights Act. So if you really think about it, Joe Manchin basically racist too, because he's defending a racist who refused to get rid of something because of racist reasons.
Yeah.
I feel you. All right. So just checking time. Let's run through good news real quick. And then let's go into discussions.
Do we actually have good news?
We got some good news.
It's like
politics.
No, Kev,
like
your good news is like you literally scrape for good news.
No.
It's like it's not like good news, like good news. It's like
it's like
it's like good in comparison to all the bad. So
it's like common sense that happens. So you have to like celebrate common sense.
Okay.
I'm gonna call it common sense. It's not good news. It's common sense. So the Biden administration is looking to make some work from home jobs permanent from federal employees.
Wow.
Take a note, corporate America.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you why I think corporate America pushing for this is because they love micromanage.
Oh, I'm sorry.
At home, they can't micromanage you.
This is relevant, but like over the last few weeks, like seeing like companies or stores or like chain restaurants posting that like their employees haven't come to work, so they have to close, has just made my heart so happy. Because, we're finally getting somewhere, people. We're finally starting to understand our worth. We are the ones that are the driving forces. Demand what you deserve.
Yeah, know your worth.
They said it's.
I love it.
They got. Was it 12?
Oh, because they don't want to. No, they don't want to compete with unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
If unemployment is paying their people more than what you're paying them, that you're the problem. You're the problem.
Unemployment is not a living wage for
And it has been reported that there is no correlation between unemployment and people not wanting to work. Like, it's not like a majority of people have decided like, oh, let me just quit my job to get on unemployment. Most people actually have been trying to find work. But the problem is, why should someone who's looking for work settle for like $8, $10 an hour when you could pay them more?
Giving signing bonuses at McDonald's, they're giving out phones, they're giving out everything.
Period.
This is what it
tuition reimbursement, which is wonderful. Let's build a package. Let's build like some sort of incentive.
Yeah,
package.
because I think.
But let's raise the pay as well.
For too long, corporate America has gotten away with this bullshit.
And I love,
It's time people know their, as Carla said, get to know their worth, bro. Because
who told you? Let me ask you a question. Who said that just because you don't have a college degree that you should just work for pennies? That's not fair. I think what it boils down to is these people are the backbones of these companies. Without them, there would be no productivity. There would be nothing. There would be nothing. You would have nothing. So I think as a token of appreciation, at the very least, up the pay. Because what's funny to me is when all this started happening, people's response was, let's give them more, let's do tuition reimbursement program or tuition assistance reimbursement, more vacation days, more paid time off. Like, okay, this is wonderful. But what about the money? The money is the most important thing. Like that's wonderful and that's fine and dandy. But people are not coming to work because you didn't want to pay for them to go to college. The reality is not everybody wants to go to college. So throwing it in people's face like, hey, we'll pay. If you can afford to send your workers to college, you can raise the pays. So let's stop with the bullshit and acting like if you up people's pay, like a few like maybe realistically it needs to be upped a little bit more than a few dollars. But
A few
these
dollars.
companies-
It should be a living wage.
these
It should be a living
companies
wage.
are
Whatever number that is,
$1
make it a
million
living wage.
companies, $1 billion companies. They can afford it. The shit is not going to crash and burn because you decided to pay your workers a livable wage. I think, honestly, if they did, you would see that more workers would probably want to come to work. You wouldn't have as many call outs. You know, you would have a lot more positive energy, a lot more positive attitudes, people actually wanting to do their job because they're getting paid fairly. So, you know, I think even the transition from work to from home, if a person can get the job done just as well from home, why are you rushing to get people back to the office? Like, I really don't understand the numbers in that type of situation, because then it's like you don't have to pay for an office space. You know, people don't have to commute.
Well, the big concern from big companies right now is that they want people to, they're worried about engagement is what they're saying. They're saying, oh, workers aren't as engaged when they're working from home, and they're not connecting with their coworkers. They're not as productive as we'd like them to
That's
be.
a lie.
We don't have as much control over them. And it's
What is
total
this, high
bullshit.
school?
And that's where it
I've
comes
been working
They're
remotely. I've been working remotely for, I think, for 2 years now. My bosses were actually based overseas, and working remotely was fine for my day-to-day job, and there was no fall off or anything. I actually got promoted a couple of times. So, and we saw
Look
from
at
the last
you.
year.
Look at you, a ball of promotion.
Not to brag or anything.
You
I'm just
know?
saying, like the last year, we've seen examples of people being able to work from home,
But
and there's been no fall off in productivity. There's
but
been nothing
even
to suggest that this is
before
a bad
this,
thing.
People were working from home. You know, like there have been people who have successfully been doing a hybrid sort of work situation for years, for decades. I do think that for some people, being in a face-to-face type of setting with other people is ideal, you know, for socialization, for whatever the reason. But to say that, you know, people are like not engaged. First of all, if I'm engaging with you, you know, about work via email or Skype or Zoom or whatever, I feel like as long as the job is getting done to the standard that it's used to be, like that you're used to, I really don't see the problem. Because you know, you don't go to work to make friends, and you don't go to work to socialize. You go to work to get your job done. So I feel like as long as the job is getting done.
Like Marcus, I've been working from home, not for 2 years, since like March of last year.
Right.
March of 2020, right? And then I got promoted. I was doing so well. I got promoted and got put on a new project where I'm in a more senior role, because I'm able to focus more. I don't have to do with a bum ass commute to go get up at freaking 5 something.
Commuting
sucks. Go get on that to get on that train to go into Manhattan. Freaking spend all that money. It's like $20 at least for lunch. I leave my house early, so I have to buy breakfast. So it's like $50 every day I'm spending on food, everything. And it's hard to concentrate, because after that, I have to leave work at like 6:37 to do that commute again. To come home at like, honestly, by the time I get home, it's like 8:39.
I think the commutes from home after work is like almost, I think it's very, because it's like, imagine working all day and you just want to get home and unwind, but you're stuck in traffic. Like, for, you know, depending on what time.
The train delays in New York are insane. Whenever they say, "Oh, sorry, there's a switch problem," oh my gosh, you're gonna be there for a couple hours.
Right.
You'll just be stranded on the island trying to get home. It's trash.
So kind of like to point out
in the summer, it be happening during the summer too. So it's imagine being in a subway with like a million people, at least like 100,000 people stuck trying to go home. That has happened to me before.
Yeah,
like in 90-degree weather, like type thing. I'm in Times Square. I'm in Grand Central, just trying to go home, and I'm stuck in a.
That sucks.
There's no AC in the train stations, bro.
No.
Then you have to do all
shoulder
that
to shoulder
come
with
back
people
tomorrow. Yep.
No, it's terrible.
I will say, you know, there are definitely some things from the pandemic I hope are able to stick around.
I'm not giving any more handshakes. Just a fist pound, and that's
And
it.
an elbow.
You might get a
Elbow.
cap from me.
I love that.
Right.
I love the
Not
elbow.
touching your hand. People are
But even,
nasty.
you know,
Aggressive point, amen.
at the very
Yeah,
least,
you are.
at the very least, you know, I know that it's been a big thing as far as even with kids and parents. It's been very hard for parents to do both, you know, having to help their kids with school and having their, you know, having to work from home. I know like sometimes that combination in the house together can be a lot. And I know a lot of people are, you know, anxious for kids to go back to school for that very reason. And for that same reason, a lot of people are ready to go back to work. But I feel like, you know, the kind of staying your distance from people should definitely be a norm. You know,
They're
it's
gonna
no
require.
reason why.
They're gonna require me to wear a mask in the office. If
I'd rather stay home.
That's another thing. Like, yo, you want me to do this all day? I know that there's restriction about going outside, like stuff like that. Like,
I can
yo,
just work.
when I'm doing perfectly fine from home, I feel like, yo, it's one of those things where it's a micromanaging control stuff. Like people, the older generation is used to being their managers micromanage them. They used to all of that stuff. So now we're being forced to stay underneath this regime where everybody else trying to micromanage us, because when you are working from home, there's not as much control. You can't see what a person's doing, like stuff like that. Like I don't get the push to go back into the office. I thought it was the smart ideas and company save money. I like the hybrid model because I do think like every now and then, if you work in a team environment like I do, you need to control your teams and your projects and all of that. My job is most likely going to do a hybrid model, which I'm okay with. Like if I go in 2-3 days of the week, like that's fine. Like just don't let me come in every day knowing that I don't have to be here. I don't have to do this. I don't have to spend this money to be here.
We need to get producer to get a soundboard. I was going to give you gunshots, you know, gun control shots. What is this? Gun control shots. No. All right. So we hate to commute to work. Let's just finish off common sense. Rick Santorum, former senator of PA, former asshole on CNN. He got fired for being a racist.
That's
not clapping CNN. I'm not.
No, I'm clapping Rick Santorum finally losing his job. All right, they finally said something too racist for them to be like, all right, whoa, guys, let's get this guy out.
For a long time, CNN has been a purveyor of racism, and nobody really knows it. And my boy pointed out to me a couple years ago, because I used to be a #1 CNN fan. Like I used to fuck MSNBC because they never show like the middle of the line, like, you know, I thought CNN, I could rely on CNN because they show both sides, you know. But then after a while, and I'm watching CNN and I'm seeing Rick Santorum is there, but they fire Mark Lamont Hill. And the comments that they said that Mark Lamont Hill made were so bad. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, Temple kept him. He became tenured after that, you know, because they try to make him seem like such a bad guy. Like CNN been doing this for a long time. Like when I turned to MSNBC, I can see real politics. Like I watched Joe Scarborough and all of them. Joe Scarborough is a Republican, former Republican congressman. Michael Steele, like former RNC chair. Those are people that I could listen to. Those are Republicans.
Yeah, like, I used to listen to Michael Steele's podcast because yes, he's Republican, but he's gonna tell you, people are racist. Like he's gonna say that. Like he'll be like, yeah, my party's racist. Like he will say that. And it's just like, I respect that. You're not like this brainwashed guy that has to bend over backwards to prove that white people aren't being racist. You know, he's actually saying it. So shout out to him.
I don't know, man. I just think it's nuts. The times that we're living in, where Rick Santorum is actually, people like Rick Santorum and Tom Cotton and all of those people are like actual senators.
Tom Cotton's name still kind of gets me, man. Like that's just
very good, name. Bro. The fact that his name is Tom Cotton and he's a racist, bro. It's racist too. Like, bro, it's actually like mind blowing. But it's Arkansas. It's a backward state. I'm gonna call it what it is.
Shout out to Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Hopefully she wins that race.
Why are we shouting her out? Stop shouting out Republicans. All right? We're not doing that both sides of some stuff.
Both sides are bad.
No, screw that.
All right.
There are bad people on both sides.
There are.
There are. Joe Manchin.
I think it's a little unbalanced, though, if I'm being fair.
Yeah. All right. So last thing on common sense, and then we go to discussions. We're running out of time though, because it's kind of yelling at us. New York's AG office has teamed up the Manhattan DA to investigate the Trump organization. I don't know what's going to come out of this, but it sounds good news to me. So
I personally don't believe that an attorney general is going to prosecute a former president, and it don't result.
Especially that former
president who got 78 million people to vote for him. That would lead to a civil war, a literal civil war.
And by a black attorney general too. So
that'd be Letitia James. Yeah, that'd be give us something to talk about.
Yeah,
at the very least. But that would be a crazy situation.
that would be crazy, bro. 78 million people voted for Trump. People still what's it called? The ninjas audited the vote in Arizona.
Shout out to Arizona, man. Trying to build election integrity. They're gonna find something. They're gonna keep digging.
They have to replace.
They're gonna find Republican fraud is gonna be the funny part.
They have to replace
that's what they found
all the machines. They have to replace all the machines, the voting machine for the new election, because of Cyber Ninja's investigation. So it's costing the state money for them to even look at it. Because if you have an outside entity look at the voting machine, that means you have to get new voting machine next time, so they can't hack the system.
No, you would expect more from the party of fiscal responsibility, right? Like, why are you wasting money on this
tax cuts?
That's true.
Well, I hope our generation is the generation that kind of ends that BS statement for Republicans. Like
we won't. We'll just continue. It'll just continue on. Like every generation just kind of picks up the mantle rather than just doing their own thing or kind of rebranding it in a way that makes sense.
Right. That's fair. All right. Well, it's all over for us then.
Sadly.
All right. On to discussions.
I don't see a favorable outcome from any of this period of this political climate that we're living in.
I'm honestly terrified of 2022.
I think we're going to lose the House.
I'm scared about 2024, but I think I'm scared of the potential losses in 2022 and then the media's reaction to that, because I don't think the media is going to be like, oh, look at these Republican or swing states that kind of made it harder to vote or kind of reduce the integrity of the elections. It's going to be like, what did Democrats do wrong? And I'm kind of nervous about that in 2022.
If we lose in 2022, I hope that it's a sign for things in 2024 that people like Nancy Pelosi and all of those people will be a new set of people in Congress. Like I want to see a person like Tim Ryan being a more leadership role in the party. Like I feel like Tim Ryan.
He's running for Senate. Yeah, actually, he's taking over the Portman seat. Or it's going for the Portman seat.
Mm-hmm. I feel like some things like that would energize us. We need a new thing. Like this is not working, bro. The old guard isn't working.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Nancy Pelosi has done a lot of good for the country, but I do think that she's been in politics for so long. It's time for her to step aside. What's
that lady name? What's the other lady name?
You talking about
Katie Porter?
No,
Katie Porter. Like we need people like
Feinstein.
We need people like Katie Porter. Like Katie Porter isn't your average politician. I see Katie Porter, I'm like, oh, that's a school teacher. Like I could listen to Katie Porter. She's fighting for things. Like she explains it perfectly. Like we need somebody like that. We need more people like that. I'm not saying like we necessarily need Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like people that are like extreme like that. I'm talking like people who can simply put regular things on the floor, like things that make sense, controlling, putting pharmaceutical companies under control and stuff like that.
Well, the thing I love about Katie Porter is that she actually won in a reddish district, or like a swing district. But like she's not pulling like this old school democratic philosophy. It's like I gotta sound like a centrist. I gotta sound like a moderate Republican.
No.
She's not. And
No.
I
She
love
come
that
there
about her.
and she come there and she speaks common sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what
She
it is.
breaks
like,
things down very simply
that-
for everybody
Right, exactly.
in a way that
So-
other
And
people
that's-
just kind of like assume you're going to know what they're talking about, and it can go over people's heads. Like one of the problems
And
that you hear
that's
about
what-
Democrats all the time is that they think they're so much smarter than everybody. When it's like, no, you just
And that
gotta
was
have
the
to meet
problem
people where
with
they're at.
with Senator Elizabeth Warren, one of the smartest people in Congress currently,
should have been
probably the
Yeah.
smartest person in government currently. Like on not even to like be like on some like yo, she's probably really the smartest person in Congress right now. But when she explains her idea, it's just come off like, oh my gosh, like why is this lady trying to embarrass me? Like I don't understand. Why can't she break it down on a level that I could understand more? But when a person like Katie Porter talks, she can talk to the regular people. She can talk to regular folks.
I think with Elizabeth Warren, and we're on a tangent, but I think with Elizabeth Warren, it's more to do with sexism.
Discussion time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it is discussion time. All right. Anyways, people are sexist towards Elizabeth Warren.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about something fun here. So
For
Marcus,
Elizabeth Warren the last 4 years.
CEO Marcus has dropped a pretty fun question here. He is our eternal CEO. He is amazing. All hail Marcus. All right.
Dial it down like 5%. I'm not the one.
Okay, he's an okay guy. All right, so
I'll allow it.
Here the Greater Idaho proposal. This is his question. So this is the build up to it. So 5 rural counties in Oregon want to leave with the state because they think the state is becoming too far left, and they want to leave the state to join Idaho because Idaho is more conservative. And so here is the question. Should we allow for redrawn borders so political allies can live with like-minded neighbors?
I'm kind of torn on this one. I know in the past I've argued that we should just kind of split up the country by your political leanings. But again, I think it's hard as hell to do without some sort of war. And I don't want to see a war. I don't want to be a part of a civil war if you can avoid it. But I feel like
be drafted.
That too.
Well, okay.
It's not for the civils or for the what was it, the selection thing when we were 18.
Who gets the nuclear codes?
Well, let me ask you guys this.
It's a fair question.
Let's look at Oregon.
Yeah.
If this does happen, are the people in Portland upset?
No.
They're not
probably
even
good
losing.
riddance.
They're not even losing tax revenue because that was probably a tax burden for the people of Portland. So,
usually how it
Yeah,
goes.
like,
Blue
most
areas
of-
usually
most of these-
support the red rural states, right?
Yeah,
Or rural
that's the
areas.
thing.
Right.
That's the thing. When they always said when Trump was saying, "Oh, it was just a blue state bailout," and most of the country is propped up literally mostly by blue states, by New York and California. We prop those states up and the tri-state area. Like we literally prop them up. Like we prop everybody around us up. Like New York is the financial capital of the world. California has the tech capital of the world. So if you lose that, then you lose everything.
like, I'm looking at this question. I'm like, you know what? West Virginia should have probably taken a couple more counties. Go for it. Take a couple more counties, West Virginia. Go for it.
Just eating some PEA in Virginia, just get bigger.
Right. Let's do
Yeah.
that. Like North Carolina. Hey, get us up to Tennessee. Cool. We're good. I am all for this proposal. Just hands down, I am for this proposal. Yeah. So good question, Marcus. All right.
Yeah.
So that takes care of that. All right. So this is a more serious question here. This is kind of about Biden's infrastructure bill. So basically, like, if you've been watching like politics this week, Biden's been taking a couple of L's. He had like a self-imposed deadline for the George Floyd Policing Act. He wanted that done on May 25th. Congress is not going to pass that. They're still kind of stuck on like qualified immunity rules. And then Biden also wanted to get his infrastructure bill passed around this time frame as well. That's looking like it's not going to happen. So Biden's been really trying to get bipartisan support.
Been touring the country as hell.
Touring the country. He reduced the size of his package, the infrastructure package, 2.2 trillion to 1.7 trillion. Thank you. But Republicans are still against it. Susan Collins says that it's too expensive. Roy Blunt has said that it's insufficiently targeted. And he said it is not focusing on traditional infrastructure, such as like roads, bridges, buildings, ports, and bridges. Or I'm sorry, I got the typo there. But you get the picture. And he said that wants to expand on Biden's plan wants to expand on broadband, electric car charging, care for the elderly, clean drinking water, all these terrible left-wing global stuff like high-speed rails.
I mean, that is infrastructure, but
yeah,
right.
Anything that'll make life better for some people, Republicans just aren't going to have it. It sounds like.
So basically, the question here for the podcast is this: is bipartisanship in DC dead?
Yes.
For now, yeah.
Working with another side that, remember, every time they have said we're working with Republicans, they voted against it. Like, there's no working with those people, bro.
No, they just drag you to the right on every single issue. It's like, no, this isn't good enough. And then you can just keep on making those, just giving into them. And
I don't want to say this.
This alienates people.
I don't want to say this.
It's ridiculous. Just give it up. Yeah.
I don't want to say this, but I'm gonna say it. That's the same shit they try to do with Hitler, try to appease him, and nothing was good enough until it started World War II. They gave him peace of Czechoslovakia, whatever the country was called. He just kept taking peace. They kept Neville Chamberlain and everybody just kept allowing him to do all of that until it was a point when he just invaded Poland. Because at that point, like, who's gonna stop him?
Yeah.
Like,
you already given them the sign that they can do whatever they want. You're just going to kind of go along with it just to preserve some, fake measure of peace. And what you get is something that, just kind of leads to, disaster in that case. But I mean, look at where we're headed now with Republicans. We didn't check them early on enough. And now, they're pretty much like the party's given up on democracy, right? Like we're seeing that with, these,
literally
these vote measures. They've given up on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think bipartisanship is for the most part dead, unless it involves war or something dealing with corporations, like some type of benefit or welfare to corporations. Then you'll see like bipartisanship there. But outside of that, it's completely dead. I just don't.
I did wonder if there was going to be any bipartisanship in taking on like the big tech companies and even Facebook. But again, they're so like the complaints are so divergent. Like it's like Republicans like, oh, we're being censored, and Democrats being like, oh, wait, you're allowing all this hate speech and fake news to kind of proliferate. And like I thought there was maybe some middle ground there to get something done, but even that's both sides are just far apart on what the issues are. So like what good is it having bipartisanship if we can't even agree on what's right and wrong?
Like simple thing.
I don't even know like what the Republican solution to that would be though, right? Would they want to break up a private company? Because doesn't it go against like Republican?
It goes against one of the tenets of conservatism, right?
Right. Yeah. So it's like, are they just gonna? Because I know like here in Florida, the governor was like, we're just gonna fine you. I think the governor of Texas said that too. We're just gonna fine you. But there's nothing else past that. Which again, I think that's arguing free speech laws. But who am I? So yeah, I don't think you're going to see anything like any traction on that.
Yeah.
All right. So producer Yale is telling us to be quiet. So we're going to wrap up this podcast. So that is all that we have for the Liberalish podcast. This is episode 29. If you like the podcast, please like and subscribe to it. Share it with a friend. If you hated it, that's cool. Leave a little comment, we'll read it. But also share it to someone else so they can also hate it so we can get our views up. So please help us out. We're still a young podcast. We're trying to become the next Joe Budden podcast.
Better.
We're trying to be better. My bad.
From the good days, I guess.
From the good days. All right. That's all we got. And we're out.